to increase speed to market? Is there an opportunity to develop fast-track regulatory approval processes for new financial products to trade and clear in London venues?
I think just stepping back a little bit, the same sort of issue. One of the criticisms that I've heard of the Hill listings review, which has been generally speaking pretty, is this is a long drawn out process. This isn't probably going to be resolved until the autumn. That's very disappointing. I know that you're talking about specific individual products here, I think, Jonathan. But I do agree, yes, I think there is. I think that we need to look at ways of doing this in a much more efficient way. The great thing about common law is predictability, and that's a huge asset when it comes to regulatory approval. You can get on and do things in the fairly certain knowledge that they're okay, without having to wait in a queue somewhere in Brussels or wherever to find out whether it's possible to do it. That sort of thing at least gives us an advantage there, but we do need to do this. And I think it's a very good question. I'm grateful to it because I think it's something that we actually need to take up within our organization and look at. We've got a list of issues like this, and that was certainly one of them. Patrick makes his next few remarks. I shall write that down. Fast-track regulatory approval.
Is another problem, we're going back to the media, is another problem that so many journalists and financial services, business, political leaders have spent years looking at this in regulatory terms rather than commercial, meaning that Brussels was the sun around which they orbited.
Who I know very well and respect and have worked with. He is one of the many voices of reason, but a particularly committed voice of reason on the city corporation. I think that one of the things that we really do have to do is to make sure that the commercial side, which is after all the business of business, becomes much more dominant, the regulatory side. So I think there is a really important exercise in re-education. That's a long-term thing. One of the things which you would understand from your experience of working in the public sector and the political side of the public sector is that it takes a long time for these changes to happen. But they need happening, and they need to be driven by people like you in the corporation. And I imagine most of the people who are listening to this, because we represent the future, and we need to create a financial services industry which better resembles the sort of vision that we have, and not the one that we had and we're leaving behind.
So what would you think of Lloyd's of London transforming itself into an exchange group and for the city to optimize liquidity by arbitraging securities, derivatives, and insurance regulations?
I think that we're in a situation where all bets are on. But I do think that you need to look at what markets look for. They're concerned with competitiveness, they're concerned with liquidity, they're concerned with depth, and the way in which they're provided. In the LIFFE days, of course, it was an open outcry trading floor. Stock exchange was only partly digitalized in those days. In those days, there was some money to be made out of exchange trading. We now know there isn't. The money is made outside the exchanges. There are all sorts of opportunities here, but I think the most important thing is to provide a regulatory system which actually caters for the opportunity. Go back to what I said before. You're talking about a number of different alternative products. We have the opportunity to make sure that they are happening in London, properly and competitively regulated. Lloyd's of London transforming into an exchange group, I think I'd have to get outside this and work out exactly what you meant by that. But beyond that, of course, one of the problems with insurance is that it is a less commoditized activity than a lot of the markets outside insurance. But I do think that there are immense opportunities. The main thing is for us to be able to create, as I say, and what we're working on, the City United project, is the generic framework which allows this to happen.